Hello everyone. Hello Vintage Gaming. Hello Parul. Hello guys. A very good evening to all of you. I hope all of you are doing great. Hello Muskan. How are you all? How are you guys and how's your preparation going for the boards exam? The days for which you have been preparing for the past, 10 months. Hello Sanjeet. Hello Royal Gamer. All of you have been preparing for these days for the past 10 months for your board exams, and everyone must be telling you that the board exams are really important, right? So I hope your preparation is going well. Hello, Vivek. Hello, Lekha. Hello, Amit. Hello, Raj Lakshmi. Hello, everyone. So, in this session, now all of you must be thinking, what exactly are we going to do in this session? Okay. So, in this session, what I'm going to discuss with you is I'm going to give you a few tips to score 90 plus in your board exam of maths in just 5 days. Yes, in 5 days, I'll tell you the reason why I'm giving you 5 days for this. I have a 5 day plan for you, and why specifically it's only 5 days. Yes, Vivek, we'll come to those questions as well, whether you can clear your doubts or not. Royal Gamer, if you are if you're in grade 10th, then this session is not for you. Maybe for 2 years later, you can start preparing right now. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the basic stuffs. Hello, Divya. Your date sheet, I hope all of you must have by now memorized it. All of you know the important dates. So for the science students, you will see that the maths board exam, that's on 18th of March, and for the commerce students as well, it's going to be the same exam on the same day as well. For the science students, you will realize that your previous exam, that's going to be of chemistry. Okay, so in between these two exams, you are going to have 5 days: 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And for the common students, you are going to have 3 days: 15, 16, and 17. So I have with me, I have a very good 5 day plan for all of you. Maybe for the commerce students, what you can do, you can get 2 days over here between your exam of accountancy and business studies. Okay, you have so many leaves over here: 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you have 7 leaves. Okay, so 2 days you can get from that as well. For the students, those who have bio exams as well. Yes, Palak, I was about to come to that point. For those students who have their bio exam, and I believe is on 15th. Yes, so those students, what they can do is, in this 5 day plan, as I just told you, that for the commerce students, you need to get 2 days out of these two exams. Or what you can do is, for the science students, those who will be having their bio exam on 15th, what you can do is 2 days prior, before your English exam, or in this week, you can start this plan for the 2 days, and the rest of the 3 days you can follow after your bio exam. Rest of the 2 days you can follow after your bio exam. You need to get 3 days before this, because if you have, I hope you guys must have realized this by now, that if you have chosen for both bio and maths, then you need to put in some extra effort from your side as well. Okay, so 3 days for bio students you need to get from over here as well. Okay, so let's start with this, guys. I hope all of you are ready. All of you are not confused about the dates, what your dates are. Once again, I'll repeat: for the science students, before your maths exam, you're going to have a 5 day leave. For the bio students, it's only 2 days. So you need to get 3 days before the beginning of your board exams. For example, like in this week, that's the only week left. Okay. For the common students, you are going to have only 3 days between your business studies exam and maths exam. So you need to get those 2 days, maybe before your business study exam, depending upon your preparation. If your preparation is not good for business studies, you feel like you need more days over there, so you can get those 2 days from here as well, before your English exam. Okay, so let's start with this, guys. So I'm going to discuss few general things with you, which I believe you are already familiar with. The type of questions that you are going to come across, how many questions will be there, is it going to be tough? First thing, the very first question that comes to every student's mind is, if it's a board exam, is it going to be tough, or is it going to be really tough? What do you think? That whether your board exam it's going to be a really tough exam, is it going to be a simple exam? You will realize, guys, that the school exams that you will appear for, or the pre-board exams, those exams are tougher than your grade 12th maths board exam. Okay, the grade 12th maths board exam, that's not tough at all. Okay, you will realize that's one of the easiest exam, and you will realize that most of the students scoring 90 plus or even 100 marks, full marks, those are only in maths. If you look at this data, how many students have scored 90 plus or 100 marks in which subject? You will realize that most of them have achieved this in maths only. Okay, so this is like one of the easiest reference point to analyze that it's not tough at all. Okay, it's going to be a very easy exam. You will see that your school exams that you're appearing for, or the pre-board exams that you have already appeared for, those are tougher than the boards exam. Okay, now few things which I want to discuss with you based upon the previous year's pattern. Yes, that's great, Ritik. That's what we are going to discuss. Okay, so few things that I want to discuss with you, that based upon the previous year's patterns, the type of questions that you will come across, you will see that your question paper that will be divided into four different sections: section A, section B, section C, and section D. These are the four sections that you are going to have, guys. Section A, section B, section C, and section D. Section A will consist of questions having weightage of 1 mark per question. Okay, there will be four questions of those types. The total marks for section B will consist of questions having 2 marks per question weightage. 8 questions would be there. Section C will be having 11 questions of the type. This is just these are the observations based upon the previous year patterns. Okay, section C will be having 11 questions whose weightage is going to be 4 marks per question, and section D, that will be having 6 questions and the weightage is going to be 6 marks. And those who are again and again asking, sir, how to pass this exam, for those students specifically, I will tell you that this section is the most important one. Like, you will realize there are only 6 questions. If you can do all those 6 questions correctly, you will pass. Okay. Now, yes, Harshita, those things I am going to discuss with you as well, whether the type of questions that you will come across, whether those questions are from the NCRT book or RD Sharma, or which material you should refer for a specific topic. Okay, so let's start with this, guys. As I told you earlier, that it's going to be a 5-day plan. Okay, so let's start with day one. What I have done, I have one more thing. If you look at the weightage of the units, this is another important thing. I have divided your course into 6 different units: relations and functions, which consist of inverse trigonometric functions as well. Yes, inverse trigonometric functions. Relation and function is inclusive of inverse trigonometric functions. Then you have your differential calculus, in which you will come across topics like continuity, differentiability, application of derivatives. Integral calculus, you will realize the most weightage is of this unit, integral calculus, 26 marks. Probably you will realize that the first 2 units combined, differential calculus and relations and functions, that is 26, and integral calculus itself, that is 26. Okay, so integral calculus, that's going to play a very important role whether you are getting 90 plus or not. Okay, so this is going to be the most important one as well. Then you have algebra, 16 marks, where I have included the topics like probability, linear programming, in determinants and matrices. 2 chapters only. I would consider this as the most easiest one, very easy. And vectors and 3D, 17 marks, again a very important unit. Okay, so let's start with a 5-day plan, guys. So what I've done, as you can see over here, for day one, I have given you 3 topics, 3 chapters: sets, relations and functions, matrices, and determinants. The reason why I have chosen these 3 topics, you will realize that if we talk about the difficulty level, you will realize that for sets, relation, and functions, somehow it's medium, the type of the problems that you will come across. Okay, Now, no, Palak, this is not what provided by CBSE, but this is the patterns which we have observed analyzing the previous, at least previous 10 years papers. Combining those, taking the average of those, these are the observations which we have made. Okay, so sets, relations, and functions, I would consider this chapter as easy. Matrices, that sets, relations, and functions, I would consider this one as medium difficulty level, and matrices as a very easy one. And I believe all of you would agree with this as well, that matrices that's really simple. Yeah, sorry, relation sets you are not going to come across in grade 12th exam. Only there will be relations and functions, plus are going to be inverse trigonometric functions as well. There will be inverse trigonometric function combined with this as well. Okay, so right now what you have to do, you can skip the inverse trigonometric wala part. Okay, you can just focus on relations and functions. Okay, inverse trigonometry will be giving them some separate time. You don't need to practice the problems of inverse trigonometric functions over here. Okay, so that's why, because inverse trigonometry is not included over here, I would consider this as this of the difficulty level medium, and matrices as easy, and determinants as difficult. The reason why I'm considering inverse of a function, you need to do over here, inverse of a function you need to do over here, that I'll discuss the topics which you are supposed to cover over here. So first thing is the type. All of you are thinking that the type of problems, okay, or which books to refer from. These are the two most important questions that you always come across: which books to refer from, and the type of problems that are asked from a particular chapter. So for relations and functions, guys, I would recommend you, in fact, for this 5-day plan, the if we talk about the options that you are left with, or the options which you have, NCRT all of you must be having. Then you have the NCRT exemplar as well. You have the previous year questions with you as well, previous year papers with you. Then we talk about some other reference books which we generally use, RD or RS Agarwal, or there are so many other books. Okay, so I would recommend you now, you for a 5-day plan, you don't have any time left for these two. Okay, now you just need to stick to these two books only, NCRT and your previous year problem, for a 5-day plan, especially because it's not like you're starting a topic right now. Okay, you have been planning for this, you have been studying for this for the past 1 year. Okay, so now it's just for a quick thorough revision. Every topic must be covered, and the type of questions must be relatable as well. So that's why I'm just sticking to NCRT and previous year problems only. So for relations and functions, I would recommend you to refer to both NCRT and previous year problems. The reason why you need to do previous year problems in this, because you will realize that the variety of problems, I, it depends upon the topic, Vivek. Okay, I'm discussing chapter wise. So for relations and function, the reason I'm telling you to focus on previous year papers as well, because because the thing you will realize that the variety of problems that's large in relations and functions. Okay, so just relying upon the NCRT problems, I don't think that would be sufficient enough. The variety of problems is large, so you need, and the type of questions which have been asked in the boards exams, those have also varied if you compare it to the NCRT problems as well. So that's why I'm asking you to refer to previous year problems as well, especially for this topic, relations and functions. If you look at the weightage of this chapter only, now I'm just talking about the chapter, not the unit. If you look at the weightage of this chapter, that's of 8 marks approximately. Now, some of the important topics that you will come across from this chapter are going to be identity element, finding identity element. That's one very important bit, identity element, and that's related to your binary operations. So you must be aware of the binary operations as well if you want to do identity element. Okay, so binary operations, identity element, then coming to functions, inverse of a function is the most important one. Every year you will realize that every year there's going to be at least one question based upon inverse of a function. In one way or another it will be used, and you will realize, if you're familiar with the inverse of a function, then only you will be able to solve the problems of inverse trigonometric functions as well. So inverse of a function is very important. Composite functions are also very important. These two you will realize at least one question. If you go through any year papers now, you will realize that These two topics are really important. You will find problems of these two topics in almost every year's paper. And then comes the concept of domain and range, which is also very important. Domain and range, especially in the range part, most of the students get confused in this part. So that's why I'm asking you to go through the previous year problems as well, because what I believe, that the number of problems or the type of problems which are given in the NCRT book based upon relations and functions, that's not sufficient enough. Hello, Rohit. Now, let's move on to our next topic, guys, which is matrices. If you look at matrices, that's really simple. One of the easiest topics in your syllabus, matrices. For this, I would recommend you to stick to the NCRT book only, because you will realize that the variations is not very large. Almost all types of problems are covered in the NCRT book. There is not much variation. If you look at the weightage, that's of like 6 marks. Yes, Pinku, what's your question? Relation and function is very complex, complicated chapter. What should be the strategy? See, for relations and functions, I would recommend you first. You need to come across. First, you need to go through the concept of domain and range. What is domain and range? That's a very basic question related to a function. What exactly is domain and range? Then you must be aware of the types of functions which are possible. After that, this should be your sequence. What is the concept of domain and range? What is a function? What are types of functions? Then comes composite function. Then you will come across the concept of inverse of a function. Then you will go through the binary operations, and in binary operations you will find one more very important topic, which is identity element and inverse element. Though inverse element, that's very rarely asked, but identity element is very important. Okay, and for this, for the and for everything, if there is any topic in which you are confused, in which you want to prepare from the beginning, let's say for example any topic, let's say composite functions, and you're not at all familiar with composite functions, so right now I would only recommend you to go through the NCRT of that topic. Okay, and the theory part as well, just stick to the NCRT book. Okay, now let's move on to the next one, guys. Matrices. Matrices, I would say, Priyanshu, that matrices are really simple. Okay, there are only two or three types of questions which could be found, and if you just go through the NCRT book of for matrices, I think that's going to be more than sufficient for matrices. Okay, yes, Pinko, I believe that's going to be more than sufficient if you can go through each and every problem, if you can solve it, if you can understand it thoroughly. Okay, for the fear part as well, Divya, again I'm going to come that part. Okay, once finishing this academic part, like how to deal with each and every chapter, then I'll come to that part. I'm going to give you some tips about that as well. Okay, now for matrices, 6 marks weightage. The type of questions that you will come across, one, you will realize, guys, that those would be based upon operations on matrices. When I'm saying operation on matrices, what kind of operations that you can perform on matrices: subtraction, addition, and multiplication. The most important one is multiplication. Then there is one more very important type of question, guys, which is based upon symmetric and skew symmetric matrix. And the question which I'm talking about, I believe all of you must have seen this question before. Expressing any matrix, if there is any matrix given to you, express this as the sum of one symmetric, one skew symmetric matrix. Generally, this question is asked in 4 marks. Expressing any matrix which is given to you as a sum of a symmetric matrix and a skew symmetric matrix. Okay, so this is again very important. And then in the end, inverse of a matrix. Okay, when we are talking about matrices, this is again one of the confusing parts, that if you are supposed to find the inverse of a matrix, okay, there are two methods which you have learned. One is in determinants and one is in matrices. It would be quite clearly mentioned which method you are supposed to use, and generally it's elementary transformations. Generally you will realize that it's by using elementary transformations. Whenever you are supposed to find the inverse of a matrix, if you look at the previous year board question, generally it's through the elementary transformations. Okay, what sometimes students do, they solve it by the determinant method, which you are supposed to avoid. Okay, now coming to our next chapter, which is for your day one, which is determinants. This chapter I would consider this one as a difficult chapter. Okay, the reason being, all of you must have realized, if you have solved a few problems, which all of you have already done, that the proof based questions where one determinant is given to you and you're supposed to prove it either equal to 0, or this determinant is equal to ABC into A minus B into B minus C into C minus A, those type of problems. In those type of questions, you generally get confused, right? So for that as well, I would recommend you to go through the NCRT problems only. No, not at all, Adina. Right now, it's not the time for you to start with RD Sharma's second book. Not at all. Okay, you don't have sufficient time. Just stick to the NCRT book and the previous year problems only. Okay, Pinko, if you are in science, I'm talking about, if you are in science stream, your previous exam is going to be of chemistry. So 5 days, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, the day after your chemistry exam. Okay. Now the type of problems that you will come across in this, one of them very simple, that's going to be based upon the value of a determinant. Okay, that's really simple. You all know how to solve a particular determinant. Then the most important one, that is based upon the properties of determinant. There are so many properties. Okay, that's totally up to you. Again, that thing which Vivek asked, I'll come to that point as well, like which section should you refer first. Okay, properties of determinants, the transformation, the properties which you can use based upon determinants, and what effect does it makes on the value of a determinant. That's very important. Okay, which transformation you can perform and what effect it's going to have on the value of the determinant. And again, the last one, that's inverse, by using the method of A inverse, that's equal to adjoint of A divided by determinant of A, those type of problems. Okay, those are really simple. So this is your day one, guys. For day one, you just need to do relations functions, matrices, and determinants. Okay, so I believe it's clear to all of you what you're supposed to do on day one. Now let's move on to our day two. For the day two, again, you will see that there are three chapters. First one is inverse trigonometric functions. If you have done functions properly in relations and function, and you're already familiar with the concept of inverse of a function, I don't think this is going to take any time. Still, I'm considering this as a medium difficulty level chapter. Absolutely, Palak, absolutely. If you can do those things thoroughly, I think that would be, and even if you ask any teacher, not just me, I think that's going to be sufficient enough. Okay, so for inverse trigonometric function, guys, I would consider the difficulty level of this chapter as medium, because the problems are slightly tricky. Okay, you need to think on your feet, like which concept you're supposed to use over there. Again, I would recommend you to stick to the NCRT book only. Okay, following the previous year patterns, you will realize that generally the weightage is 5 marks. For example, there would be one question of 4 marks and then one of 1 mark, or 2 plus 2 plus 1, though that's very rare. Okay, generally you will find 4 plus 1. The type of problems that you will come across, once again, domain and range. And as I told you, if you have done the concept of domain and range properly in relations and function, then I don't think it's going to be any issue for any one of you to understand this concept of domain and range. Take the help of a table, prepare a proper table where you write the domain and range of all these functions. And even if you're not memorizing the domain and range for, let's say, the reciprocal functions, at least make sure that you're memorizing that you are familiar with the domain and range of sine, that you're familiar with the domain and range for your sine inverse function, your cos inverse function, and your tan inverse function. Just write them down properly. I don't think it's going to take much time. Domain and range, that's going to play a very important role. Okay, see, Adira, I'll come to this part as well, that how you can score 100 marks if you can do all these things properly. The plan is going to be same. You need to make sure that you're sticking to the plan properly. You're not making any mistakes, and there is no loophole in this, in your preparation. If you're following this plan properly, Okay, then you will see that there is no one who is going to stop you from scoring full 100 marks. Okay, now the next important thing in this chapter you will realize, guys, that's going to be your formulas for tan inverse function. Yes, triangle method, I'll come to that part as well. Why? What is triangle method? The formulas for tan inverse are really important. I'm talking about tan inverse x plus minus, for both of them, for both plus and minus. Tan inverse x plus minus tan inverse y. You will realize that this is applicable in most of the problems, especially the 4 marks question. And the triangle method, which I have mentioned over here, which is this triangle method. In the problems of inverse trigonometry, guys, this is the most important bit. Triangle method. What is this triangle method? It's nothing but a very simple trick. That is, for example, let's say if I give you sine inverse 3 by 5 is equal to x. Okay, x is equal to sine inverse 3 by 5. What does it means? If we take any right angle triangle, okay, so 3 by 5 is the value of sine x. If I consider this angle to be x, so perpendicular is 3 units, hypotenuse is 5 units, base will be 4 units. The benefit of this triangle method is, depending upon your problem, now you can express x as anything. For example, in the same problem, now I can write that cos of x, that's going to be what? 4 by 5. Tan of x, that's going to be what? 3 by 4. So now I can write x as cos inverse 4 by 5 as well. I can also write this as, please wait, Pinku, I will come to probability as well. Okay, please wait. Now, x you can also write as tan inverse 3 by 4. Fine. So this is the triangle method. You can convert every function in the form of any inverse trigonometric function. So this is your inverse trigonometry, guys, the triangle method. Now, the next one, the difficult one, for the difficult chapter for your day 2, that's going to be continuity and differentiability. And one thing which I've been mentioning in the class as well, whenever you're studying continuity and differentiability, make sure it's always limits, continuity, and differentiability. Make sure at least you go through the basics of limits. Okay, just the basic part. Maybe you can take the help of grade 11th NCRT book. I will come to 3D as well. Take the help, whether Ravi, I will come to the 3D part as well. Right now, I'm going to discuss about continuity and differentiability. Focus on this. So always make sure that you're going through the basics of limits as well before starting with continuity and differentiability. Okay, all these things are related to each other. And for this topic, I would recommend you to not just rely on NCRT, go through the previous year problems as well. If we talk about the weightage, that's going to be roughly of 8 marks. Okay, and the most important ones, how to find continuity of a function, differentiability of a function, mean value theorem, and Rolle's theorem is generally which we these two topics are those which we generally skip, that these are not so important or very simple, but you will realize every year you will find at least one question from either one of these two. Either it's based upon mean value theorem or Rolle's theorem, so both of them are very important. Now the simple topic for this day, for your second day, the simple topic, the easy topic, that's going to be linear programming. And all of us would agree with this, that linear programming is really simple. Okay, one question that is fixed, 6 marks question it's going to be. There is no need to practice any other type of problem which is given in NCRT book. And generally the problems as well, they are divided into three types of problems: the manufacturing problems, the diet problems, and the transportation problem. The only thing, yes, it's Lagrange's mean value theorem, Pinko. The only thing which you need to keep in mind in this chapter, the only trick part in this chapter is, when you are finding your feasible region, sometimes it's going to be bounded, and sometimes at times it's going to be unbounded region. And for both of them, there are different methods to find your optimum solution. Okay, it's possible. It's been asked in previous years. It's possible that you might get the transportation problem as well. So you should be prepared with that transportation problem. And all of you have seen that how to solve that transportation problem. Generally, this type of flow chart you will come across. If I talk about the transportation problem, there will be a station A, there will be a station B, and there are going to be pumps like pump 1, pump 2, petrol. If we talk about the petrol pumps, petrol pump 1, 2, and 3. And let's say petrol is transmitted from A to these three, from B to these three, and from B, B to P3. And you will realize the distance and the cost per kilometer, all those things will be given to you. So this is very important. And if you practice 2 or 3 questions, it's not that difficult. Okay. So this is your day 2, guys. Inverse trigonometric functions, continuity and differentiability, and linear programming. These are the topics you should stick with. Now, talking about day 3, on day 3, you will realize there are only 2 chapters. Okay. The reason why there are only 2 chapters, because one of the chapters that we have over here, application of derivatives, this consumes a lot of time. It's a very time consuming chapters because there are like 5 very important topics and all of them have their different methods. Okay. First one is problems based upon rate of change, tangents and normals, how to find the equations of tangents and normals, to check whether a function is an increasing function or a decreasing function, how to find the maxima, minima, and approximation. Each one of them is important. The weightage is going to be of 8 marks. I would recommend you to stick to NCRT problems only for this topic. There are sufficient number of problems given in NCRT. You might not be even be able to have a look through each and every problem given in NCRT itself. Okay, so there is no point of recommending to any other book or even the previous year question. Just stick to the NCRT book. In this chapter, generally you will see this bit: maxima, minima, the geometrical problems. This is the one in which I have observed that the student face most difficulties, the geometrical problems. So make sure you practice a number of geometrical problems. Okay, where no matter whether it's a cone which is inscribed in a, I'm just taking a random example. For example, let's say inside a, let's say cube is given to you, and inside this cube, if I construct a right circular cone, so what would be the maximum volume? Those type of problems. Okay, they're very frequently asked and most of the time students get confused, but it's not that difficult. It's very simple. Okay, so on your day 3, make sure you complete all these 5 topics. Each one of them is very important, whether it's rate of change, tangent, normal, increasing, decreasing, maximum, minima, or approximation. Generally you will see there will be 2 out of these 5 topics. There will be 2 problems, each of 4 marks. There are going to be 2 questions, each one having a weightage of 4 marks from these 5 topics. Okay. Yes, talking about probability. So you will see from probability, I would consider, that's why I'm keeping only chapters for your day 3. Okay, because one is difficult, application of derivative, and the second one as well, probability, I would consider it as of medium difficulty level. Okay. For probability, refer to NCRT and previous year problems, both 6 marks. It could be a 6-mark question as well, or it could be 4 plus 2 as well. Okay, both of them are possible. The important topics are conditional probability, Bayes theorem, total probability, random variable, binomial distribution. Bayes theorem, I would recommend you as the most important topics from this chapter. The most important is going to be Bayes theorem. Okay, so make sure you solve a number of problems based upon Bayes theorem. Okay, guys. So this is your day 3 where you have to practice these 2 chapters, only applications of derivatives and probability. Now, let's come to our day 4, the most important day in your preparation. And the most weightage as well this day is going to have. Okay. In this, the first chapter which you are going to take, you are going to start. The reason why I'm keeping all these 3 chapters together, because you will realize all 3 of them are related to each other. It's all about integration. Okay, so first start with integrals. Okay, again, I would consider this as difficult one. Okay, stick to the NCRT problems only, because you won't be having too much time. The weightage is high, 12 marks. Make sure the methods which I mentioned over here, make sure you practice at least 2 to 3 questions based upon each method. The first one is substitution method, second is integration by parts, then partial fraction, then the standard formulas for integration. I'm talking about integration of dx over those type of integration dx over root x square plus a square, those type of integration, standard integration. Then the problems based upon, I have combined indefinite and definite integral as it's given in your NCERT book as well. So the properties of definite integrals are also really important. And then the last one, limit as a sum. We generally ignore this, we generally skip this, but very frequently a 6 mark question has been asked from this concept, which is limit as a sum. So make sure you go through the theory part of this one as well. Most of the times it's in choice, okay, but you should be prepared with it, because you are, see, limit is as a sum is going to be there for sure. So you don't know whether the question which you're getting in choice for limit as a sum, whether you will be able to solve that problem or not, because that question is also going to be a 6 marks question. So you're not sure which question is going to be that one. But what you can be sure about, that it's going to be a limit as a sum problem for sure, as one of the options. So make sure you practice this topic. Okay. Now, once you are done with integrals, then you have to move to applications of integrals. For the difficulty level, I would consider this as medium. Stick to the NCERT book only. 6 marks. You will see there are going to be generally there is a question of 6 marks, or sometimes it's 4+2 as well. The most important thing in this chapter is first, that is curve sketching. You should be aware with all those graphs. Y square is equal to 4ax, or y square is equal to minus 4ax, or x square is equal to 4ay, all those parabolas, x square is equal to minus 4ay, whether it's the equation of a circle, like for example x square plus y square is equal to a square, or it's the equation of an ellipse, x square by a square plus y square by b square is equal to 1. So first you need to go through these equations, how their graphs are drawn depending upon the values of a and b, and then how to find the area between the two curves. Okay, so again, this is a very important concept, and it's relatively simple once you are done with the integration part, because the integration part from this topic, you will realize that the integration part, that's going to be really simple. Once you have constructed your graph properly, you will realize that the integration part is very simple. Okay, now coming to the last one, differential equations. I would consider this as easy once you have done integrals. If your integrals are good, this is really simple. Again, stick to the NCERT book only. Weightage is high relatively, which is of 10 marks. The first question that you will come across, that is based upon order and degree. Yes, the first question that you will come across generally, that's based upon order and degree, which is based upon work, which is whose weightage is 1 mark. Formation of differential equations, sometimes it's asked in 2 marks, or if it's a very difficult one, it could be asked in 4 marks as well. Homogeneous differential equations and linear differential equation, these two are very important. Okay, how to solve homogeneous equation, just all most of the times you have to put y equal to vx, that's it, then differentiate it. Or if it's a linear differential equation, then you know that it's going to be of the type dy by dx plus py is equal to q. Just express your differential equation in this form and find the values of p and y, and then follow the procedure. Now this is your plan for day 4, guys. Now coming to day 5, your final day. Do not get stressed a lot on this day. So vectors and 3D, that's it. Okay, for vectors, I would consider this one as easy, where there are variation of problems in vectors. Okay, problems are simple, but the variation is large, and you need to visualize things as well. So that's why I'm recommending NCERT plus previous year problems for this chapter. Talking about the weightage, 7 marks. The types of questions that you will come across, those would be based upon the types of vectors. You should be aware about all those types of vectors, no matter whether it's a unit vector, it's a zero vector, it's a null vector. All the types of vectors you must be aware with. And then the operations based upon vectors. Operations, when I'm saying operations, the most important one is the multiplication operation, which we do in 2 different parts, known as dot product or cross product. Okay, so practice as many problems as possible based upon dot product and cross product, and their geometrical interpretation as well. For example, dot product, cross product you can use to find the area of a triangle. Dot product we use to find the projection of a vector. That is another very important topic, projection of a vector. on another vector. Okay, and finding the area of a triangle or a parallelogram using the method of vectors. Then for that, Vaidehi, you can go through some of the videos which we have posted earlier. Okay, you can go through some sessions of three-dimensional geometries as well. Now talking about the next one, which is three-dimensional geometry. For this one, I would consider the difficulty level as difficult. Okay, again, stick to NCRT only. That would be more than sufficient because there are so many problems. Probably all the variations which could be asked in the board exam, they have been discussed in the NCRT book. If we talk about the weightage, that is of 10 marks. First, always start with this is the most important one, okay, which the students generally miss, and then they are not able to understand this chapter. The concept of direction ratios and direction cosines. The standard equation of a line in two different forms, it's there in your syllabus. All the possible equations for plane which are there in your syllabus, which are given in NCRT. How to find the angle between lines and planes, that's very important. And then these two topics I would consider as very important: finding foot of perpendicular and mirror ways. The reason I'm saying these are important, because very frequently problems have been asked and students tend to make mistake in these two parts. If you're supposed to find the equation of a line or a plane, you will find it easily, but this is the part in which you are going to get stuck. So make sure especially for these two topics, you practice as many problems as possible. Okay, so guys, this is your 5-day plans. I have divided the chapters accordingly. Now there are some basic things which I'm going to discuss with you. Okay, someone was asking, sir, is it going to be a very tough exam? Tell me guys, do you think it's going to be the toughest exam? Is the paper going to be really tough? Do you think that the if you look at the maths board exam paper, you have been preparing for this exam for the past 10 months, if you have seen a previous year paper, any year, if we talk about, it's not going to be tough. Most of the questions that you will come across, most of the problems that you will come across are the familiar ones. You have solved those type of problems before. So I don't think it's going to be the toughest or it's going to be a very tough exam. Okay. Now, yes, any more doubts if you have related to your board exams, since it's a live session, you can discuss those with me. To see, 2015 was tough, sir. Well, I have seen at least the previous 5 years board exams papers recently, and I don't think I won't consider any one of them as tough. Okay, maybe sometimes you will realize that, see, there's a difference between the paper being tough and lengthy. Sometimes you will find is that the paper might be slightly lengthier. Okay, and then it's up to you. You need to play smart, especially the problems in which you are having a choice. You need to pick the problems wisely. For example, as I said, there is going to be a problem based upon limit as a sum, and you will have a quotient, a one more quotient, and that is definitely going to be of integration as a option, as an option. Okay, so now it's up to you. If it's an integration problem and you can solve it quickly, you are going to save a lot of time over here. So over here it's up to your smartness. Okay, now to overcome that fear, you all have been, I am repeating this part again and again, to overcome that fear, you all have been preparing for this exam for the past 10 months. Sincerely, I believe all of you are. If you're attending this session, that means that you're serious for this exam. So if you're preparing for this exam for the past 10 months, and as I told you that it's not going to be a tough exam, so if you just if you have that fear, I would recommend you to, especially those who are having such type of fear, at least appear for 2 to 3 mock tests. Okay, the mock papers, solve them. Okay, probably you can go through their solution or their answer key as well, and then check how many marks you are getting, and you will realize for sure that you are going to get it was a doubt of Divya. So you will see, Divya, that your preparation level, that's going to be really good if you look at the some really good mock test papers. Okay, so it's not going to be a big issue. So any other questions, guys? Any other doubts related to your grade 12 maths board exams? Okay. So in that case, all the best, everyone. I hope all of you are definitely going. I believe all of you are definitely going to. Yes, why? What was your question? Sir, for 3D, is it necessary to solve it with equations like from points where we can directly make a line without using a formula, or so we should use formula or not? See, one thing in three-dimensional geometry, Pinku, we have already discussed the paper pattern. For that, you can go through the initial part of this video. You will find that MCQs are not going to be there. And for three-dimensional geometry, I would always recommend to everyone, draw a rough figure. Always. Especially in the problems like, for example, let's say you have to find the mirror image of a point about a plane. So in such kind of question, what you're going to do, just draw a rough figure. Let's say this is your point, and you're supposed to find the mirror image of this point about this plane. Now this is your image. So you will realize that most of the things would get clear from this figure itself. That's your point, and you are finding its image. So obviously, if you join these 2 points, it's going to be perpendicular. This line is going to be perpendicular to the plane, and this point is going to be the midpoint of the. Point is going to be the midpoint of the 2 points which you have. Let's say P is the point which is given to you. I is the image of this point, and the midpoint of P and I that's lying on the plane. PI is perpendicular to the plane. This midpoint is also, let's call it M, lying on the plane. So 3 points are cleared from this. If we draw the proper image, that now which are the 3 points that we got? That PI is perpendicular to plane. Second, M is the midpoint that lies on the plane. So these kind of observations in 3D you can only make once you have drawn the proper figure. Okay. And for three-dimensional geometry, Pinku, I would recommend you to stick to the NCERT book only. For probability, maybe. Yes, yes. See, it depends upon the type of question. If your method is correct, then it's not necessary that you have to use certain formula only. Why? Okay, if your method is correct. If your approach is correct, then it's not necessary. Okay. Modulus type integration is also very important. Integration -1 to 3 modulus of x. Those type of integration are also very important. They're generally asked in 4 marks. Okay, and it's really simple. If you look at the problems, these are really simple. Okay, so I believe, guys, this session was helpful for you. For any other information related to the boards exam or any other help, you can contact us in case of any queries. All the best, everyone. I believe all of you have been preparing for this exam for the past 10 months. Your preparation is very good, and all of you are definitely going to get 90+ marks in your maths exam. Bye, everyone.